Today's episode is about the failure modes of agents. So, in the first two episodes, we have spoken how we need to govern the trace and not the code. So, that was episode 1. And then how there is a difference between observability and governance. That was episode 2. Now, the question that is obvious is if you have your HTTP status code 200 and you have the following message that everything is fine. There is no exception, there is no stack trace, there is no red anywhere. So, was the run still wrong? And if it's wrong, how? Why is it wrong? That's gonna be today's episode. So, first idea to kill. Agents do not fail in infinite or predictable ways. You could actually have a systematic and finite catalog that explains how fail. So this is of course not my opinion. There is an empirical taxonomy called MAST. Here you can see it. It's built over 1600 annotated real agent traces across 7 frameworks. So, and this spins to 14 recurring failure modes in 3 categories. All of this we will discuss, but the number is not the point. The point, it's a catalog. It repeats, and you can actually learn it and read it. So let's talk about categories. First of all, we have bucket 1, which is our first failure mode category, which is system design or specification failure mode. It happens when you have your agent that's disobeying or repeating or never stopping to do a certain request. So that's category number 1. Category number 2, we will see later on in season 4. So for now, we will still only talk about this bucket and the third bucket. And I will just say one thing. This bucket is about inter-agent misalignment. So it's agents talking to each other and dropping the ball between them. This one needs more than one agent. Then the task verification failure mode. This happens when nothing is checking whether the work was actually right. Some of that is single agent, some needs a second agent, of course. Our research then answer agent, the example that we had, is a single agent. So today we're going to demonstrate the single agent failures in our presentation. So instead of running one agent twice, we're going to look at 4 short runs of the same research then answer example that we had. The one you've known since episode 1. If you don't know the example, please check the other episodes. So let's look here. You have 4 traces. Each one is returning success. As you can see, every badge is returning green. This is the HTTP status code. And now I'm going to go through each trace one by one, and I'm going to circle in red the thing the status code cannot see. So let's start with our example. As you can see, the process here is broken. As we have already explained it, this is what we call step. This is the redundant calls. If you look at step number 2, trace number 2, excuse me, this is worse and quieter if you look here. As you can see, you have question and then you go straight to answer. So there is no search at all. The agent here skipped the one mandatory step, which is retrieval, which is this step that should have been here, and gave you an answer from nothing. So the failure isn't what it did, it's what's missing. And of course, your monitoring has no concept of a step that should have happened. And as you can see, we still get the HTTP status code 200. Now, if you look at the third trace, you have the agent that's picking up a tool, which is correct, but the problem is it's picking the wrong one. So it needed to pick search. It called calculator. The tool ran fine. We didn't have problems. We got our HTTP status code, and it gave actually a perfectly valid number. The answer is not something anybody asked. So tool executed, the tool succeeded, but the task failed. And this is a trap. This is what we call wrong tool. Should be search here. This is what we're gonna call our failure mode. And as you can see, we still have our green HTTP status code. The final one is what we call premature termination. As you can see here, you have question, search, everything is nice, but it quit early. So here you're getting half an answer. If you're using ChatGPT or Claude or any of these chatbots, you actually will have this happen very often. So it gets its own name. And as usual, the task is not complete, but we still get our HTTP status code that says 200 OK. So one thing I want you to remember is that you cannot solve this with better error handling. I told you this already. You're always getting 200 OK as a message, as a status code. So none of these through an error or something that tells you that you skipped a certain step. All of these were what we call graceful failures. So they look exactly like successes, but they are not. So right now, what we're going to talk about is how to monitor for that. The other idea is that it's not about whether the final answer was wrong. If the process went wrong, a step was skipped or repeated, misordered, then you might actually hand a plausible answer. But a broken process can produce other problems, even if it gives a believable result. That's why you can't judge a run by its output alone, and definitely not the status codes. You need to check the process. So for next episode, what we're going to talk about is the missing piece. We need the norm, meaning a reference model of what should have happened. Next episode will be the governance stack, where process mining sits above observability.